Hello, hello, hello. Hope you're well. Hope you're slow. Hope you're wavy. Hope you're wavy. Hope you're gravy. I got my glasses on. I need to wipe them though. Some people were saying that the microphones are a bit softer. I mean, I did listen to it and I can tell kind of what you mean. I think it sounds cleaner. There's less noise. That might be what you're referring to. So it does sound a bit quieter in the sense that there's less noise. So it can make it sound a bit softer. I think the solution to that maybe is increasing the intensity of the triggers that I do. But apart from that, you know, there's not much I can do. I could put it into the editing app and make it louder, but then once you export it, you lose some visual fidelity as well. So I try not to do that. I mean, it is lo-fi, but at the end of it, but I like the aesthetic I've got going on right now. I don't know if people can actually notice if I do exports, can they notice the difference between the exported video that, you know, it gets reduced as you export it, reduced in quality as you export it, or the original raw footage. I'm not sure. Yeah, I think the answer is just to get a bit more intense, just a slight bit more intense to make up for that. But, you know, I didn't think it's that noticeable. I think most people are fine with it. Yeah, I'm just wearing my glasses today because I was just not wearing them the whole morning. My eyes were getting tired. I was going through my old chats. I've got chats dating back to 2021. I was going through, I'm like, damn, people I don't recognize. I'm like, who is this person? I'm listening to entire voice notes. I'm like, I clearly had a conversation with this person, but I don't know who they are, which is uncharacteristic of me. I usually remember people, but I couldn't. There was one person I was listening to. I'm like, I don't know who this is. He sent me a voice note. I really don't know who this is. We had an entire chat open. Anyway. I got a new phone, so there were some numbers that were saved to this phone. That all of a sudden will no longer save, but the chats were still open because they got exported to my WhatsApp on this phone that I'm using now. So I still had access to the chats, thankfully. There were some people I haven't spoken to in a long time. I'm like, wow, I still have that person's number. That's crazy. So I resaved the numbers and stuff. But yeah, I'm not on WhatsApp a lot these days. I'm not really, yeah, I'm just not. Yesterday's video, contentious, of course. I was talking about some serious things. And I will say, you know, I made my comments about the Trump-Biden debate and all that sort of stuff. And I don't want to go too crazy on that topic again. But I'll just say, you know, my stance is pretty simple. Trump was a great president. I don't think he's perfect. I don't think anyone's perfect. It's not about having a perfect record. No one has a perfect record. It's just about, can the person get the job done? Can they do a good job around the country? And I think we need to stop getting into like personality attacks and stuff like that when we talk about these leaders, and just look at policy. Whenever I talk about Biden, I always talk about his policies. Whenever people talk about Trump, like people in my comments, they always talk about, oh, but he was convicted and he has got these charges and those charges. And I'm like, you're not discussing policy with me right now. Right now you're talking about all this other nonsense. It's not difficult to charge someone with a crime. That happens in many countries where they charge political opponents with crimes. I'm talking about policy right now. So I've noticed that when it comes to policy, these people are quiet because they don't know. All they know is what they've been told, which is orange man bad. Orange man did this and did this and did this, and we're going to throw him in jail. But I'm like, none of that stuff is proven. And even the one conviction he does have, legal analysts on both sides have been like, it's a bunch of malarkey, which is why it's more than likely going to be thrown out, that conviction. More likely than not going to be thrown out. We'll see. But everyone's predicting it's going to be thrown out because the circumstances of that case were so dubious at best. Yeah. The case was compromised. Anyway. You have to zoom out to the West at large. So even if you move outside of America, you have to notice that something is happening across the West in general. Even when you go down to Australasia, like Europe and New Zealand. Australia is not doing well. Cost of living is crazy. People who live in Australia will tell you the cost of living is crazy. I was reading about some stats. 3 million people living in poverty. What is Australia's population actually? I'm giving this phone to my mom. Unfortunately, she's gonna use it for business. Oh, this thing keeps telling me I'm locked out of WhatsApp. I know, like, you don't have to keep sending me notifications. Australia. My mom is taking this phone for business, so unfortunately, I won't be able to keep it. I won't be able to keep it. Wow. So Australia has 26 million people. So 3 million. Man, I don't know what the maths. How do you find out percentage? Oh, dumb. 3 million divided by 26 times 100. 11.53%. 11.54%. So 3 million of 26 million is 11.53%. 11.53% of Australia is living in poverty currently, which is not great. That's, you want to get it down as far as possible, maybe under 5%. That's what percentage of Japan? Let's see, Japan. Or what percentage of Japan? Because Japan is in poverty. Well, their economy is not doing great right now, so I wouldn't. Whoa, never mind. Yeah, their economy is not great these days. 15.4%. So Australia is doing better than Japan for sure. Anyway, let's get back to Australia. So what did we say? 11.5% of Australia is living in poverty. 40% of rent payers are saying they can't afford rent. They don't know how they're going to pay rent next month. Obviously, groceries, so on and so forth. Like, things are crazy, but this is a trend we're seeing across the West, right? You go to France, you go to Germany, you go to Spain, you go here, you go there, the Netherlands, you name it, right? The UK. People are struggling. They're struggling. Here's an interesting fact for you. So I live in South Africa. Hundreds and thousands of South Africans immigrate to places like the UK every year. Every year, I don't know about every year, but in total, hundreds of thousands of South Africans have moved from South Africa to go to places like the UK. Actually, let me Google that. How many South Africans leave every year? How many? Oh my God. Yeah, I was right. Oh my God. So January 2024, 357,249. December 2023, 620,598. November 2023, 323,263. This is number of resident departures. So these are people that are shifting residencies. Wow. These are ridiculous numbers. Oh my gosh. Anyway, so people are leaving like crazy, but we're seeing people leaving like crazy, but we're also seeing people coming back like crazy. Thousands and thousands of people, because they get there and they realize that the grass isn't always green on the other side. They get there and they're like, what the hell? Groceries cost how much? Rent costs how much? No ways. And then there's the crime, and then there's this issue, that issue. They're like, I'm gonna come back home. And a lot of them realize that, you know, that they'll still have business ties in a lot of these countries they immigrate to, right? So if you're living in the US or you're living in the UK, let's say you're coming from the US, and then you're like, I want to go back to SA for whatever reason. If you're earning in dollars, so you still have business ties in the US and you're earning in dollars, what can happen is those dollars can stretch a lot farther here in South Africa than they would in the States. So the average home in the States, will say $300,000 to $400,000. That's average home in US. This is amazing. This is very convenient. I wish I could keep this phone, because you know me, like during these videos, I'll just be like just saying random stuff, and I well, no, I don't say random stuff, but I'll just be talking, and I like to search up what I'm talking about just to verify. And this is very convenient, because then my laptop is sitting there. I don't have to crap open my laptop. I can just use my phone anyway. Cost of average house in USA. I'd say, before I see the answer, 300 to 400,000. Let's see. Oh, I was off. It's $495,100. I saw somewhere. Okay, I guess it depends on the state. So I might have been looking at a particular state. So that might have been like Florida or Texas. I can't remember which state it was. It might have been Tennessee, South Carolina, one of those. But across the country, the average home price in the United States was $495.1 thousand in the second quarter of 2023, according to the Census Bureau and Department of Housing and Urban Development. By comparison, the median U.S. home price in June 2023 was $426,056, according to Redfin. So from in the second quarter of 2023. In June 2023. So it's second quarter. Anyway, it went up. It went up by like what? 50, like almost 70K. How's that possible? That's too much. That's crazy. So if you, oh my God, so that's almost 500,000. Let's round it up and say 500,000, right? Let's round it up and say $500,000. If you take $500,000 and bring that here to South Africa, oh my, you live like a king in terms of like what you can build, the home you can build, or just buy. It'll be wiser to build, because then you can get a lot more value for your money. With $500,000, so let's say dollar to rand. The dollar is not doing so well right now, which is making me angry, because I get paid in dollars. So when the dollar isn't doing well, I get paid less money, because once you convert it into rands, it's less money. So it's gone down by like a rand or something, which I'm not a fan of. But anyway, dollar to rand, let's say 500,000 US dollars. How much is that? 500,000 is 8.9 million rand. 8.9 million. Yeah. You can build an incredible house. You can build an amazing house for 8.9 million and have money left over to invest into other things. You can build an incredible house for yourself to live in, and then maybe build smaller properties to rent out, so you can, expand, grow, expand and conquer. You don't want to spend all of it, of course. But yeah, if you have $500,000 to invest in a house in the States, you can bring that back here to South Africa. So if you're in South Africa, immigrated to the States, you get there, like, this place is, it's not what I thought it was. Let me come back to South Africa. You can take that $500,000 you're going to use to buy a home, invest maybe half of it into building a home here, have a great house, and then take the other half, build smaller properties, rent them out. Bro, you'd be big chilling. And then you keep getting that income from the States, because, we said if you have business ties there, you're still earning there. You can keep taking that money you're getting, because the dollar is stronger than the rand. And oh my God, you'd be, and cost of living compared to the US, cost of living here is cheap compared to places like the US and other parts of Europe. So we're seeing across the board that the West in general is starting to collapse, and it's not irreversible. I don't think it's too late. I think it can be reversed, but we're seeing decline, and people are concerned. It doesn't matter where you go. It seems like the entire West is failing. There's parts of Eastern Europe that are doing good. It seems like places like Georgia, for example, and other countries like that. But it's not looking good for the West. It's not looking good. That's why people are moving. Lots of people are moving away from places like America, going to finding cities in South America that are doing very well, emerging economies in Asia, Thailand, Malaysia, Singapore. Singapore is pretty much established. In fact, the demand to get into Singapore is so high that it's becoming harder and harder to get in and live there and bank there and so on and so forth. But these other emerging Asian economies that people are starting to look at, like, might be nice to live there. So people are just checking out different Asian countries. Let's Google emerging economies in Asia. So Indonesia is another one. The Philippines is another one. India, I don't think people are trying to move to India, to be honest. But maybe. Yeah, there might be. But yeah, there's a bunch of Asian countries that people are looking at and immigrating to. I've been seeing that. I've been watching videos about people talking about that. So people are leaving the West, man. And look, here's what I think. I think it's great that the world is opening up, right? That we're abandoning the old way of doing things, where it's like this culture, this tribe, this race that occupies this land, and it's becoming more diverse in terms of who lives where, and we're identifying by culture, by philosophy, as opposed to race and tribe and stuff like that. I think it's great that the world is opening up and people are finding different places to go where they feel at home more than the land they were born. I think it's great. What's not great is when people leave because the country they're in is collapsing. That's not. I would like for other countries to rise up without other countries declining. Empires rise and fall, but it doesn't have to be this disgraceful fall where the economy collapses and the country's unrecognizable. It's like it can just be you're not so hot anymore, like someone else is taking the top spot. But that doesn't mean your entire economy has to fall into tatters. But that's what's happening. You see places like France, where its capital, Paris, is not looking so hot these days, crime, homelessness, cost of living, everything is just a mess. You go across the board to any European country. Italy's got a terrible birth crisis. Terrible birth crisis. Italy birth rate. Oh my God, I'm scared to even look at it. Italy birth rate. I don't think it's less than 1, but I think it's in the low ones. So 1.2, 1.3. I think it's around there. Yeah, it's 1.25. Terrible. Oof. Oh my God. Spain. What the hell is happening in Spain? Spain is 1.19. So for reference, you need to be at 2.1. That's called the replacement rate, so that you can have stable growth of population, or at the very least sustain your population 2.1. You want to be a lot more. You want to be above that and really grow your population. That's because that's healthy for the economy. That's how you sustain your infrastructure and maintain a healthy set. Because once you start shrinking like this, there's a whole bunch of economic problems that come with that, which is not good. And that's what Italy is going through right now, which is why they're being forced to rely on immigration and stuff like this, which is not a permanent fix. It's like slapping a little bandage on a very gaping wound. It's not gonna solve the issue. You need your citizens, your core citizenry, to repopulate. Because what happens with a lot of immigrants, right? They move into these countries with low birth rates, they assimilate, and they start mirroring the culture they find themselves in. They start also falling into the same habits of not having kids. A lot of the time, that's what happens. Some cultures, they integrate, but they still stay to themselves and they populate amongst themselves. But that's obviously not going to be enough to address a nationwide issue. So Italy, and in the birth crisis, we're seeing that across the West as well. People are not having children. So not only are your economies tanking, your populations are tanking as well, and that's going to further exacerbate the economic issues as well. So it's a terrible, and on top of that, you have a mass immigration problem. So these issues, guys, are why we're seeing more and more people, voters in these Western countries, shift to the right wing of the political aisle. Netherlands Prime Minister. Let me say Netherlands. Geert Wilders. I think Geert Wilders is he running for Prime Minister? I just saw an article from Politico saying how Geert Wilders turned all corners of Dutch society into far-right voters. So they're calling it far-right, right? This shift of voters, and they're acknowledging it. They're saying he turned all corners of Dutch society into far-right voters. So obviously these liberal media outlets will paint this as far-right, as fascism, as whatever the case they want to call it. So if people are like, we want less immigration, we want a tighter border, so on and so forth, they'll say, oh, it's because you hate immigrants, you hate brown people, or whatever the case may be. That's not what's happening. What's happening is loose border policies are resulting in security risks and also job losses. So if you think about it, people that are immigrating from other countries coming into your country, they're willing to work for less money. So companies are less willing to hire natives when they can just hire these immigrants that they can pay like almost nothing. And you can accommodate them in very bad conditions and so on and so forth. So the native population won't get those jobs. So people are upset about that, and people are also upset about the spike in crime, because when you have open borders and people are coming in left, right, and center indiscriminately, you don't get the best people because you don't have a proper vetting process. So it's not about being against immigration. It's about wanting immigration because, you know, every country benefits from good immigration policies. You get the best of what other countries have to offer. Every country benefits from good immigration policies. So it's not about being against immigration. It's about being against this notion that you just let anyone and everyone in. Obviously, if you do that, you're going to get criminals. If just logically, if you just let anyone in, would you do that with your house? With your house, you select who your guests are, right? Or would you just leave your gate and your door open and anyone can come in anytime? Of course, at some point, some bad people are going to come in. And in the case of these countries, where maybe people from unstable countries are fleeing in droves, and you're saying, come in, come in, come in, of course, you're going to get many, many, many people who are bad people. That's not racist. That's just facts. It's just practical. So what you need is a system in place that says, who are you? What are you going to be doing here? Da, 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 da. And then let those people in. And that's how it used to be. And there was no issue. There were always black people that could go to this country, go to that, Arab people that could travel. So there was never an issue. There was never a thing of like Arabs are not welcome in the Netherlands, for example, or Arabs are not welcome in Germany. That was never like a, well, in these past few decades, that was never a serious issue. In recent years, however, what we've seen, the loosening of these regulations, and that's led to a bag of problems. So more people, not just in Netherlands, but in France, in Spain, in this country, that country, the UK, like England, Scotland, a lot of these countries, people are becoming more and more right-wing, because it's the right wing that's saying we need to be tougher on the border, we need to be tougher on crime, we need to lower taxes, we need to be more pro-business, so on and so forth. And this is what's speaking to people. This is what people want. So that's why people are shifting towards the quote-unquote far right. Not because they're bigots, just because, you know, these politicians are addressing the concerns of the people. That's what you should do as a politician, address the concerns of the people. So we're just seeing it across the board. We saw it in South America with Javier Milei. He said, "If these socialists, I'm a capitalist and I'm around the show now." He's more libertarian. So we saw it in Argentina with Javier Milei, but he's more libertarian. I don't think it'd be factual to call him right wing, but anyway, they'll call him right wing anyway, just because these people are lazy and that's what they do. But we're seeing figures like that. Populist is a more accurate term to describe these figures. They're populists. And really, populist is just, to be a populist, it just means you're prioritizing the concerns of the people over the corporate establishment. You're just speaking to the people and their concerns. Well, that's what it means to be a populist, essentially. So we're seeing the emergence of figures like that. The Javier Milei and Viktor Orban, this person, that person, Geert Wilders in the Netherlands, Giorgia Meloni in Italy. That was a big win for populism. Donald Trump in the USA, Nigel, what is his name in the UK? Now in England they've got Nigel Farage or something. Nigel Farage, party leader of Reform UK. So these guys are just advocating for common sense positions in which they're tougher on crime, tougher on immigration, all these sorts of things, and trying to restore order and balance. And people are hearing that message loud and clear and gravitating towards it. People of all races, gender, the two genders, and whatever political persuasion you may be in, formerly, these guys are making sense now to these people. And that's why people are shifting, quote unquote, far right. It's not far right, it's just common sense. And we're seeing that across the West because why? The West is collapsing. So when I talk about Donald Trump, right, and I'm saying that he's the answer, he's the option, the only option right now. Because people will play this silly game and saying, oh, both options are bad. Biden and Trump are bad. That's not true. Biden is bad, yes. Trump's not bad. His record speaks for itself. Again, you need to stop engaging in personality attacks. You don't have to go to prom with Trump. You don't have to go on a date with him. You're not going to bed with him. He's running the country. Talk about the policies. Do you know the policies? Or do you just know what mainstream media tells you and you just keep repeating these talking points? You sound like a robot. You can see who's programmed versus who isn't, because some people will bring up policies. They'll say, I don't like Trump because during COVID, he did end up signing on the bill that ended up for the printing of money that caused inflation, yada, yada, yada. And I guess that is a fair criticism. I would say sometimes your hands are tied and you have to do something to please both sides of the political aisle. You can't always do what you want as president. It's not as simple as just exacting your own will all the time. So sometimes I feel like things are done that aren't necessarily the best option, but your hands are tied. But hey, that is a fair criticism. He did sign off on that. You can have opinions on Operation Warp Speed. So people who were against the GB jab, the COVID GB jab, people who are against it will criticize Trump and say he spearheaded Operation Warp Speed and appointed Fauci to organize everything and yada yada yada. So that's a criticism they might have of him. What else? What other criticisms do I often hear policy-wise from Trump that actually makes sense? I mean, I'm sure there's a couple. I'm just off the top of my head, it's hard to list. But those are the two main ones I've seen: Operation Warp Speed and signing off on the COVID spending bills. Foreign policy as well. Some people might not be a fan of, well, it's actually insane to suggest that he was bad at foreign policy. There were no new wars under his tenure. But you know, some people might say that he's a bit too friendly with Israel. I would say he's been very critical of Netanyahu in the past, actually, unlike Biden. Like Trump has been very, critical of Netanyahu. But anyway, you could make the argument that he is a bit too buddy-buddy with Israel, so on and so forth. No candidate, I mean, yeah, none of these people are perfect. They're not gonna 100% align with your wants and needs. But the question is, can they get the job done and get the basics done and lay the basic groundwork for the country to be successful? Does Trump do that? Yes. He's the best man for the job in that regard. And it's childish when we engage in these personality attacks. That's not what's important right now. I always go back to the Jim Gordon Dark Knight Batman quote thing. What Jim Gordon said about Batman: he's not the hero you want, but he's the hero you need. Deal with it. You want someone that you like and get along with and you can be buddies with and have coffee with. That's not what this is about. In the case of like a Gotham City Batman, he's not gonna be the guy that you write poems about and he's so nice and you just love him. No, he's gonna beat these criminals and have them eating through straws, and you're not gonna be a fan of his methods, but at the end of the day, he's gonna keep the city safe. With a Donald Trump, you might think his personality is abrasive, you might not like this aspect of him, that aspect of him. At the end of the day, the economy was doing great under him, no new wars, border was secure, and it was going to become even more secure if he'd been allowed to keep building it. Like, you just can't compare. So people need to grow up. I'm sure you can criticize him about this, criticize him for that, but overall, I think he's the best option. So it's a false equivalency when you try to compare him to Biden. Biden's a joke. He's done a terrible, terrible job, and Americans can feel it. And we're seeing that across the West. We're seeing that across the West. Leftism in general, these socialists have failed. they've failed. And people are shifting to the right in droves. I can read that article headline again for you if you want. Oh wait, I missed it. Oh, there it is. How Geert Wilders have turned all corners of Dutch society into far-right voters. They're going to be saying that about Trump when he wins. We're praying for that. They'll be saying Trump turned America into a far-right country or whatever the case. How Trump turned all corners of American voters into far-right voters, whatever they'll say, right? It's not far-right, it's just common sense. It's just common sense, guys. It's just common sense. Let me know what you think in the comments. I think today wasn't as contentious as yesterday, right? I didn't say anything that crazy. By the way, when we're having debates, I'm very straight to the point. I don't beat around the bush, so maybe that can come off as harsh, but I'm not being harsh. I'm just being matter of fact. I'm being straightforward. So if I ask questions, I'm not being condescending. I'm not being mean. I'm asking legitimate questions that I want legitimate answers to. Sometimes people get upset and think I'm being mean to them. I'm not. I'm just being straightforward. The issue with texting is that it's hard to get tone from a text. You're reading it, so you're projecting your own tone onto that and assuming that's how I'm saying it. That's not how I'm saying it. I'm just being straightforward because it saves time. I don't always be like, I'm not trying to be mean, but I'll just rather just say it how it is. So when we're debating in the comments, please understand, I'm not trying to be mean to anyone. I'm asking questions. I'm being straightforward. I'm giving you my opinion. If I think you're being ignorant, I'll say you're being ignorant, and you can refute that. It's okay. Let's have a debate, guys, if you want to. But don't take it personal. I'll try my best to not come off as a prick. But yeah, let me know what you think in the comments. At the end of my videos, dear Father God, thank you for this individual watching this right now. Thank you for making them whole, unique, and guiding them on a path towards peace, prosperity, and purpose. Thank you for blessing this person with wonderful people in their life who love them, take care of them, bring the absolute best out of them. And thank you for maintaining the ones that are there to do the same thing. Thank you for blessing this person with love and marriage and sustaining the love and marriage and making you very, 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 very happy. Thank you for blessing this person with the spirit of gratitude so that they can give thanks for all the wonderful things in their life. And by giving thanks, they can find peace, contentment, and attract even more blessings. Let your presence be felt in this person's life. So don't let your God, let your real, let your loving was going to be there for them. Good health, long life, and happiness over this person, everyone they care about. In your mighty name, we pray. In Jesus' name, we pray. Amen, 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 amen.